Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back from the break. And before we took a break, we were getting excited. I'm starting to even think that maybe I'm starting to sound like those people I'm warning you against. So maybe I need to bring it down a few notches. But the idea is that when we hear the stories that are given within the church about the resurrection, about Jesus dying, half of those stories are not from the pages of the Bible. Maybe even more than half. They are from some fictional event that never took place, from a Hollywood interpretation of what happened there. What does the text actually say? When was the last time your priest or your pastor or the evangelist in your community gave you the Easter story? When did he give you the Easter story from the book of John? How often does he refer to the book of John? Why doesn't he refer to the book of John when he tells you the Easter story? Because even he is embarrassed. Even he doubts that that ever took place, the narrative that he finds in John. Matthew is not better anyway. So he has to pick and choose which verse he can quote from Matthew when dealing with the Easter story. Then he doesn't read the whole narrative from Matthew. Then he'll go over to Mark and choose one or two verses for the rest of the Easter story from Mark. And then he'll go to John and take out one or a bit of a verse from John for the narrative. And then he'll go and he says he's doing this to show you the full picture. He's not doing this to show you the full picture. He's doing this because he knows if he gave you the full narrative that you would go, oh, please, really? Do you want me to believe this? And you would probably walk out. Many people assume that all Christians have read the Bible because they walk around quoting John chapter 1, verse 1 and quoting John 3:16 and they quote whatever other verse they have, that they know their Bible. The honest truth is, most Christians, the vast majority, have never read the Bible once in their life. And this is a sad state of affairs. When you believe a book, be you Christian or Muslim, when you haven't read your text, you need to read the Quran. You need to read the Quran in your own language so you have an understanding of it, and then you need to learn it in Arabic. And dear Christians, if you read the Bible, you will get halfway through it. Like so many people that I know in Christianity. I speak to them and say, why haven't you read the Bible from cover to cover? And they say, it's just too heavy. It's not that it's too heavy. It's just your brain won't accept it. Your brain is going, oh, please, come on. It can't get crazier. And so you know in your mind, in your heart, you will read a thick book by some secular author without a problem. Because you know that's fictional. But when it comes to the Bible, you know, something inside of you tells you this cannot be true. And you might fool yourself and you say, it's all this I begotten, this one begot that one, and that one begot this one. That's why I don't read. That's not true. You could have just skipped over that chapter. You could have just moved on to the next chapter that doesn't have this one begot that one, and that one begot that one, and that one begot that one. You could have just moved on. The reason is because deep down you know this text is dubious. This text contradicted what you read a chapter ago. And so in your mind, you know, millions of people every day throughout the world are being taught a gospel that is not true. Hundreds of people die worldwide every day and are entering into a security that is not true. They believe that they are going to go to paradise. They believe that they are going to go to heaven. And what a shock. What a terrifying hour, what a terrifying day when two angels come to you and you find that they say, sorry, mister. And they're not going to say it in a nice way either. You got the wrong answers. And then what are you going to do? Because you were too lazy to find answers to these questions. It is your duty, it is your responsibility as a human being to find out whether or not there is any truth to what you're believing. To investigate, to question. Jesus said, believe not every spirit, but test it to see whether it is of God or not. The interpretation is that it is the Holy Spirit, that Spirit. The Spirit that it is talking about is the Spirit of the church. The Spirit that has been given to you, that you are believing by claiming that you will rather follow a denomination over what the text is saying. You'll rather become an Anglican or a Methodist or a Presbyterian or a Baptist or a Seventh-day Adventist or a Jehovah's Witness or a Mormon, then find out what your text is because you're scared of what your text will say. I'm challenging you, please, please. If it's the last thing you do on this planet, don't believe everything that you are told in the church. Go and investigate it. The more they tell you this is a church doctrine, the more you must turn away from it. You should never follow a church doctrine. What has that got to do with your salvation? What has that got to do with anything? Doctrine is doctrine. You should be getting all your information from the text, not from somebody's interpretation of the text. So when we look at the testimonies that have been given of those people who were speaking in the pages of the Bible about Jesus being raised in the body, we find that there is more evidence in the pages of the Bible that he was only raised in the spirit and not in the body. If you look according to the New Testament, those Christians who say that he was raised in the flesh have only 1 or 2 verses. There are more verses in the New Testament that speak about a spiritual resurrection, not a physical one. Not that we agree with it. So they would give Jesus a spiritual body, not a physical one. So the fact that in the New Testament, where we find Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John talking about him feeling hungry, feeling hurt, actually eating food, this would contradict that fact that he is raised in the spirit. And that would give more evidence to the fact that he was not actually dead. So the theories that we have are that he was not resurrected or he was resurrected. If he was not resurrected, then he was resurrected in the spirit. If he was resurrected, means he never died in the first place. And so he was never resurrected. Your faith has no meaning, because it said in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 17, if Christ was not raised, your faith is worth nothing. It has nothing in it. And the fact that we know that he was not raised in the flesh means that your faith has nothing. So forget about what you're believing now. Turn to the truth. Turn to what actually makes sense. Stop believing in a lie. Don't die for a lie. Don't worry about the clever talks that the Christians gave called the die for a lie. You are going to die for a lie. If you follow a teaching that by the text itself says, if Christ was not raised physically, your faith has nothing in it. And we have shown you over and over and over again. We have given you more evidence that the person that you believe that died, one, never died, and therefore your religion is a lie, or that he raised only spiritually, because it contradicts the rest of the text. Again, he doesn't raise physically, which means he didn't, and therefore the religion is not true. It's sad to say. It's horrible to say. And you might be sitting and thinking, but I've been a Christian my whole life. I'm 90 years old. I'm 70 years old. I'm 40 years old. And I cannot give up at this late stage in my life. What will people say? Who cares what people say? What is far more important is what your soul will say, what Allah will say, what your Creator will say to you. When you say, well, I didn't want to rock the boat. You have the opportunity to make a change today. You have the opportunity to really start thinking. And some of the atheists and agnostics might get very excited about this series and say, yeah, carry on. Knock the Christians, knock the Christians. That's not the point. The call is to you as well. We're not trying to say there is no God. We are saying there is a God. We're not saying that Jesus never existed. Of course we believe that he existed. We just don't believe in the way that the Christians have interpreted their version. We call atheists and agnostics to Islam. You make the best Muslims because you're the greatest doubters, because you have more evidence on your side to your arguments. And so you don't just accept blindly. You want proof. You want evidence. And you make the best Muslims. The best Muslims come from atheism, because you're already halfway to becoming a Muslim, as Dr. Zakir Naik says. Half of the Shahada is to say, first of all, that there is no God. And so if you're a Christian or a Hindu or a Buddhist or whatever you come from, whatever religion, it's harder for you. So if you're an atheist already, you're halfway there and we're excited. So don't get excited for the wrong reasons by atheists. listeners or friends. Because you are going to be the best Muslim. Because you didn't believe blind. You questioned everything. And this is what we want you to do. In Islam, you question everything until you have the proof. And once you have the proof and the evidence, you stop questioning. Why do we say that? Because when it has been explained to you, when you've accepted it, and when you've understood it, then the devil or your own intelligence or your own intellect will come and say, yeah, but it's not convenient anymore to believe that, even though it's been proved to me. And that's when you have to be careful. You question everything until it has been answered. You question everything until you have the knowledge to accept it, till you have all the proofs. Then you don't go back later and change your mind on it, because then you know that it's not what you're supposed to be doing. This is what shaitan will do. This is what the devil does. This is what you do, what yourself. Sometimes we give shaitan too much credit. We have to take ownership of how we listen to our own voices sometimes. Well, time is up again. So make sure you tune in again next episode, same place, as we investigate the cross question. So from me, Arib Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.